Hi, everyone, and welcome to the monthly podcast. We have once again the legendary Captain Kyle joining us to discuss all things going on in the world, geopolitical, financial, and other. And we always look forward to the dialogue with him and getting his insights accordingly. So, if you are new to the podcast, please do like, subscribe, and share as it helps the channel grow and others to gain in the knowledge you've been afforded. As you know, Captain Kyle is a former ship captain, has been a patriot and a key mover in this movement for a little over 20 years now plus. And so he has quite a bit of knowledge base, and we're very honored to have him. And so we look forward to getting his insights. So, how are you doing today, Captain Kyle?
I'm doing good, actually. Real good. Thank you for
Yeah.
asking.
No, you're welcome. And thanks for being here. We appreciate it as always. So, on our last discussion, we kind of talked a lot about keying in on the importance of mindset, having the right one, changing it if it's not correct. And, for the most part, I think it was pretty well received. But for some, it was a bit, depending on where you're at in this movement, it could be rudimentary or it could just be a good refresher course. That being said, there's still some people who need to be given guidance about where we are. Now, remember, you said on our first podcast that by 2026 next year, everything would be essentially revealed to the public. So to help our audiences along the way, to give them a bit of a guidance in the right direction, talk a little bit about where you see things in your purview of experience. And let's start with the financial. We got a lot going on with Iraq right now. We're seeing corruption being summarily removed optically wholesale across the world. What are you seeing with that, and how important is that to you in terms of getting to the reset process?
I mean, it's important. It's more so things are going to happen because of events, nothing else. And so until events actually cause the financial collapse so that it can be replaced with, it's kind of like, just throwing stuff on the wall and hoping it sticks, because everything is a guess in that aspect, right? And so you don't know. It's been set up. It's all of the structural parts of it are there. It's just, how is it going to finally roll out to the public and when, so that it doesn't cause a complete meltdown globally, because we have the financial system based off of the dollar and everything else. And now, yeah, it has to be, at least, this is something that, like I've talked about a lot with Lieutenant Colonel Bossy. It has to go down for a period of time, but if it goes down for too long, well, then the Black Cats win, right? So it has to have a balance to it. And when does that actually take place? And for how long does it take place? So, we're going to go through chaos. It's being set up for right now. And if you're not actually seeing it actually happening, I mean, President Trump just federalized DC. That was a bitch slap to the entirety of the deep state. That was a city state for the deep state. It was outside of the purview of every country in the world, just like London, just like the Vatican. So federalizing that is a key part of taking complete control and doing those things in which he has to. Just the other day, I said, whenever things start to happen, like arrests and everything else, they have to have complete control over the military assets. They have to have complete control over the law aspects, meaning law enforcement, and the key partnerships between those. Excuse me. The military, meaning the National Guard, people like that, working right alongside law enforcement, has been something that we have talked about for well over 2 years, that they were preparing for. And when they do this, basically, who are we looking for them to actually first start arresting? Right there in DC, right? And so federalize DC, clean up DC. Well, what is he talking about cleaning up DC? Not just like, criminals on the street. You don't need all that to just clean up criminals on the street. DC ain't that big and doesn't have that many people. But if you need complete control over the assets that are there and what may happen, well, then, yeah, you do need that kind of control. So it's optics, right? And then talking about from there, now going to real cities, mean major cities like Chicago, New York, LA, the big cities of the United States. And he basically said that in the same, speech that he gave, that they're next and it's coming. Well, we already knew it was coming, but just when, because just think that if they arrest, say, Obama, or they arrest Hillary, and the media spins it, whatever, and then this starts to create a domino effect, what do you think that the crazy leftist lunatics are going to do because of what they did just during George Floyd? It's going to be cuckoo time. And so they're going to need to be able to squish those things very quickly. Assets have been set up and positioned all around the country. We know that. We've seen it. I mean, we don't have to have some insider telling us that, hey, we're here, we're here, we're here. We know they already are because we've witnessed it, for the last couple of years of them staging, moving assets all over the country. So, why would the military move the kind of assets that they've been moving around? I mean, we follow that like Monkey Works and other individuals, right? They talk about it, catalog it, say things that are getting moved around, not the actual inventory, but you're not flying these cargo planes and stuff back and forth, and not delivering and supplying stuff, right? And moving equipment around. And we've seen trains, we've seen other stuff being moved around that is heavy equipment, right? So we're at the doorstep of assets we've all really been asking for. And the most important part of this is that we knew it was coming, and it doesn't matter how it goes down. So don't have any kind of.
So, Captain Kyle, continuing with the discussion, can you continue, if you don't mind, articulating on the aspects of the federalization of DC, how far that goes, and the potentiality of martial law and what that means for what we're anticipating?
Well, if you go by the law of war manual, which we know that's what's actually happening, and we have been under continuity of government, we do know that, as well as that we do know we've been under a limited martial law since Donald Trump actually went into office. So they could operate within the jurisdiction of military law. And military law supersedes civil law, just the way it is. And you're dealing with a corporate construct here that had to be taken down. And not just here in the United States, but that beast was globally, right? And so that's the most important part. And so with them federalizing DC right now, basically that with that and with understanding that very small, no way do they need that kind just for criminal activity. We know it's much bigger than that. We know that it's basically a start of where they're going from here, especially that as soon as I clean this up, every time he says he's gonna do something, it gets done really quickly, right? I'm gonna shut the border down. I'll use the military. They shut the border down. There's no traffic coming on, right? So this is the same thing. I'm gonna clean up DC, but in doing so, in preparing the way, this actually start to take place because they're already doing the grand jury and indictments and all this other stuff. And I believe that they've already had those, but this is just publicly, so to speak, so that the public can be aware of what's already gone on. Because a grand jury's secret anyway. So how would anybody even know that they're really having a grand jury or not right now, right? Other than they're saying that's what they're doing. Well, you can say all you want, but if it's already happened, it's already happened, right? But he also said that he's going to go from Chicago, New York, LA. Look what we did in LA, and so on and so forth. Well, this is just a precursor to quelling any kind of crap that goes on with whether it be cartel, whether it be, sleeper cells, whoever, whatever. They've been in position. We know they're in position. And if the military has to make that military presence out there in the street, then, for the last 2 years, they have been actually doing joint exercise training with like the sheriff's departments and different stuff like that, where they've been operating and training together for this very purpose. So it's not like you're going to have just a whole bunch of military guys out there and no law enforcement with them, or whether it be federal officers that are with them, like ICE and everything. And look how many of them that they're hiring, right? And bringing on board. So it's an interesting time to be alive right now. And the thing that's most important, and I'm really important, to not focus on that stuff, because you can get caught up in it and can cause you to have all kind of anxiety and stress and everything else, right? But to know that it's happening. Do we know the exact time frame? Is it next week, next month? Don't. But the deal is it's gonna happen, just like the financial is gonna happen. There's no way that it cannot happen with everything that's been leading up to where it's at, right? You're fully aware of that. People should be fully aware of that because of all the even mainstream media have for years said that it's got to correct itself because it could never continue on, right? Because the fiat system basically needed something to reset itself, and they never got that war they wanted to be able to reset it, because that's normally how they reset the debt, is some kind of global war, global issue, and they never got it because Trump didn't give it to them. And it's like with Trump meeting with Putin this next week and stuff, or this week on Friday, if you don't think honestly that this is a bitch slap to the globalists that are out there, that he's going to be in a private meeting behind the scenes with him. We already know they're on the same team, and they didn't allow the actor Zelensky to even participate in this. Why? Because he doesn't have a voice in any of this in reality. Never has, never will. He was put into place, and he was put into place by the globalists to be able to be their puppet. And when you start seeing things for what they are, you can basically just sit back, and that's where it's like, just enjoy the popcorn, get you some, couple of little, time offs, and just chill out. I don't even hardly focus any of this stuff anymore because it doesn't matter. What does matter is that I don't focus on the justice. I don't focus on, is this going to happen when, and how's it going to happen, so to speak, right? Because I have.
So, Captain Kyle, taking everything that you've been sharing, I know we've been having some technical issues, so we apologize, folks, out of our control. The enemy, this really is at the heart of the puzzle piece that you're talking about, the spiritual warfare, Ephesians 6:12. The enemy has been working overtime to try to keep the truth suppressed from all of us. He's trying to keep this broadcast from getting out with vis-a-vis the technical issues. So, in a nutshell, for the people, not focusing on any one thing, be it financial or geopolitical, what would be the key puzzle piece you think people need to know to get across the finish line?
Find your inner peace. And find your inner peace means that stop worrying about yesterday, stop trying to facilitate tomorrow, and actually focus on the now, and know that no matter what is actually happening right now in the now, that it is a divine orchestrated plan by our Father, and that it is perfect. And if you can do that without trying to control and manipulate it, that will give you peace, that nothing else around you, even if everything falls apart around you, you know that that is his plan, and it is in the now. Doesn't mean what's going to be 30 minutes from now or 5 hours or yesterday, because yesterday's gone and will never come back. So get out of that. Leave that where it was. It's in the past, and focus on your present. And allow things to happen in the way that they're going to happen without trying to facilitate and manufacture the way that you want it. You can be absolutely perfect in saying, these are things that I choose, that I desire for our future to look like, right? You don't have to have the details in there on how it's going to manifest. I want, for everyone to be able to live.
So basically, Captain Kyle, what I think the overarching point you've been making is that instead of just focusing on even event driven stuff, keeping your peace with God, not being distracted by the things of the
100%. And this whole conversation has been focused on trying to just get that point out, and the spirit that is dealing with it does not want people to hear that because of how important it is to have that peace that gravitates everyone else around you into it. I've said that people need to be their rock and of their circle of influence, and that they are very important in this whole process. Very important.
Agreed. So, because of the technical challenges, because of the spiritual demonic realm that you've already rightly mentioned, one thing that I had heard, I wanted to see if you could maybe articulate or substantiate it, maybe throw it out. So, President Trump's meeting optically with Putin, of course, on Friday, we talked about that. Zelensky, the actor, is not involved. My understanding is that the Alaskan airspace is being shut off for this, interestingly enough, since we got it from Russia, Seward's Valley, back in the late 40s. My understanding is that a lot of U.S. Cargo planes are dealing with seizing of assets, particularly adrenochrome, taking that out of the hands of the deep state. So there's a quiet fleecing of the last bits of the power play that the deep state once had. Have you heard about this? And if so, what are your thoughts on it?
I haven't actually. The last thing that I had heard was basically about the 8.8 situation with the earthquake that was over there off Russia, right? And I talked about it in one of my podcasts not too long ago. And that was not an actual earthquake, and that was a thing that Putin gave authorization for the white hats to go in there and do the things that they needed to. And it did not, if that would have been a real actual earthquake, because of the way the plates move and everything, right? And that magnitude, there would have been a massive tsunami. I mean, massive. They were expecting potentially 100 meters. I mean, not 100, 10 to 20 meters of a tsunami, right? So we're talking, a good 100 foot, potentially. And that was something that didn't happen. Why? Because it was manufactured earthquake underground because of where it actually they were done. And it was very significant because when you listen to how Trump has been kind of saying the things he's been saying to Putin about ending the war and all that, do you honestly think that he's talking about the actual war in Ukraine, or the war that he's actually dealing with as being a white hat underground and with the facilities that are behind the scenes? I would pretty much hang my hat on the latter, because we've seen things are not as they appear in Ukraine. I mean, not even close. I mean,
yeah, so you're saying about Ukraine? I'm sorry.
I can. Yes. So in Ukraine, in the beginnings where basically had been just the beginnings of the war, and then 5 or 6 months later, complete, residential buildings completed and redone, and removing people in them and basking. How is that physically possible if it's not what we think it is? It's not, right? I mean, we have documented evidence that there were complete areas that were supposed to be destroyed, and then within 5 or 6 months they're all completely rebuilt into these big old 12, 13 story freaking apartment buildings, right, that are just beautiful. And
All right. So if it's not as it appears, which we know it isn't, and nothing is,
So you were saying, Captain Kyle,
so
nothing is that it seems.
nothing is. And we've talked about Wagging the Dog, the movie, and how a lot of it has been manufactured for the basically for the public's view, and how much it's real to how much it's not real. We don't really know, but we know one thing, that Trump has talked to us a lot about the TV generals and everything else, and casting, and everything is not as it appears, and that we should just be focused on our inner peace and let God work out the details, because when we actually do get to where we are heading down the
Mhm.
road, you don't have the ability to have an expectation of what it is, because you don't have a perception of anything ever being like that, ever. So just put your hopes on it. Dream, dream big on what you want. Leave the details out and how it's going to happen, and then it can't let you down. It is coming. How it comes, when it comes, and in what order it comes, let that happen by the divine creator, because he's got it. He is in control. And the people that are working in his behalf are doing exactly that. So that's where you're going to find your peace. Stay in the now. Stop worrying about tomorrow and when everything. It's going to be okay. I know people are going through difficult times. We all are, in our own manner, whatever it may be. We're all going through our own individual journey, and nobody's journey is greater than the other. So do not diminish someone else's plight, their issues, because it's all relative to that person. So my problems aren't bigger than somebody else's, or my problems aren't less than somebody else. They're relative to the person. And
Mhm.
we should always remember that. And then show people love and compassion. God said, love thy neighbor, love your enemy. That's loving the enemy. Why do you love your enemy? Because that enemy's trying to kill you, because that is God. Whether you realize it or not, that individual is God. He's got God in him, because he could not exist without God in him. Nothing can. So show them love because of God, not because of what they're doing, not because of who they are, none of that stuff, because you're not buying into any of that. I don't have to accept that, but I do have love for that person. It's like, love the sinner, hate the sin,
Right.
right? And it's the same thing. Love thy neighbor doesn't mean the one that you can get along with. The perfect neighbor, it's the one that plays the music and is freaking you, everything that you can't stand, they are, and you're supposed to love them. When we can start to get to that point and not worrying about everything else and showing compassion and love, we're getting closer to where we need to be for where we're going, because we cannot take our baggage with us. We can't. All of that crap has to stay in this reality, in this realm, period. If you took those things into 5D, you would actually physically manifest them there very easily, without you even, if you had those fears that people have that are suppressed and stewed, you'd manifest those that would become real for everyone. That can't happen. See what I'm getting at? So
Mhm.
those have to go away. You can't take that with. It's like where and it's that same saying that no sin gets to enter into the kingdom of heaven, right? But that's taking it to a different capacity than what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is all those positive, healthy attributes of humanity is where we need to have going into humanity, and not all of that repressed anger, hate, and division that we are in the false matrix in which we're at right now. If we pull that, if someone goes into 5D that's not supposed to be there, they will manifest that there. And
Yeah.
you
So, I
can
mean, Cap,
preface this with this is the thing
sure.
that's ever happened.
Well, yeah, absolutely. My thing, Captain Kyle, is the Father, Jesus, Abba Father that I know. He's interested in where we're headed, not where we've been. Like, to your point about leaving the past behind, he's always talking about in the Bible, see this new thing that I'm doing. So he doesn't want us stuck in the past. That's where Satan gets us in bondage. I think that is a complementary point to what you were sharing. Given all the technical challenges we've had because of the nature of the message that you're trying to get out and help people recognize that we've been fighting through the last hour trying to get this far. Where can people find your work on all of your different social media links?
Uh, Captain Calls Patriot on Telegram, on X, Rumble, and if it doesn't have a really large following, then it's probably some, fake account trying to, grift off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, one thing that I'm trying to do right now, and I just spoke with the admins about it and stuff, because I've backed way away from how much things I put out, and I don't actually put mine out or actually doing too many shows or anything like that, because I feel that right now, less is more, and it should be about the actual content and not just the overwhelming amount of information. Now, there was a time where it was really appropriate just to get as much information out as possible, but I don't think it is anymore. And I think right now it's more important to be more centered and have a lot more direction on exactly the spiritual message that we need to be focused on, because
Yeah,
that's what's getting us to the other side, nothing else.
absolutely. And we will, as always, leave those links in the description for everyone to peruse and enjoy the podcast. Again, we apologize, folks, for technical difficulties, been out of our control, but we did our best to cobble this together. Captain Kyle, thanks for joining the podcast. We appreciate you as always, brother. Look forward to seeing you down the road in the near future.
Absolutely. Love you guys.
Much, my brother.